everyone, welcome to our presentation. My name is Amelia.
And my name is Saniya. Today we're diving into something that affects all of us, but often gets overlooked, sleep.
Have you ever struggled to get out of bed, even after a full night of rest?
Or pulled an all-nighter and felt the consequences of sleep deprivation the next day.
If you answered yes, then stick around. We're going to break down how sleep affects our health, mood, and memory, why drowsiness is more dangerous than we think, common sleep disorders, and some ways to improve sleep quality based on our own experiences.
Sleep isn't just about feeling rested. It plays a much larger role impacting learning, memory, and emotional well-being.
Right. And as students, we all know how tempting it is to pull an all-nighter or cut back on sleep, thinking that we'll be fine. But the truth is, sleep plays a crucial role in our performance, both physically and mentally. And spoiler alert, you can't just catch up on sleep over the weekend.
Poor sleep increases stress, weakens the immune system, and even raises risks for long-term conditions like heart disease. From a quantitative perspective, sleep loss is associated with a 1.7 times increase in injury risk, impaired reaction time equal to legal intoxication, a 10 to 15% decrease in testosterone levels, 4 times increased likelihood of catching a cold, an increased risk for stroke, cardiovascular disease, and obesity. But before we get into the risks, let's understand what happens when we sleep.
Sleep isn't just one long continuous state. It happens in cycles. There are four stages: N1, N2, N3, and REM sleep. N1 is light sleep. N2 helps processing memories. N3 is deep sleep for physical recovery. And REM sleep is most important when dreaming happens and cognitive processing occurs. Each cycle through these each cycle through these stages lasts about 90 minutes. And disrupting this cycle, like for example, setting alarm clocks, leads to grogginess and poor cognitive function.
And our circadian rhythm or internal clock controls when we feel sleepy or alert. This internal body clock creates a predictable schedule, helping our body to actively prepare to rest and recover rather than simply reacting.
It's all regulated by light exposure too. So if you've ever had a hard time waking up after scrolling on your phone at night, or slept with blackout curtains, that's because the blue light tricks your brain into thinking that it's still daytime when you're on your phone at night, and the blackout curtains prevent your body from sensing daytime light in the morning.
And the circadian clock isn't just a daily clock. It can also be a seasonal clock for other organisms. Hibernation and migration are some key examples of seasonal circadian clocks in other organisms.
Drowsy driving is yet another detrimental impact of sleep deprivation, which can further lead to slower reaction time, impaired decision making, and worst of all, people can actually fall asleep at the wheel.
Unlike drunk driving, where you might still react slowly, drowsy drivers can literally just stop responding altogether. When studying the scenes of car crashes, it is easy to spot cases of drowsy driving. Because unlike drunk driving, where people will brake suddenly, those who fall asleep at the wheel do not brake at all. This results in no skid marks in the cases of drowsy driving.
Here's something shocking. Being awake for 18 hours straight is like having a blood alcohol level of 0.05%. And after 24 hours, it's like having 0.1%, which is legally drunk. Some people may actually think that they can make up for a bad week of sleep in one night. But let's imagine this scenario. Imagine your brain has a sleep credit card, and every time you skip sleep, you swipe the card and you build up sleep debt. Once you build up a big enough debt, let's say 10 hours, it'll take several days of sleeping in excess for you to make up your 10 hours of deprivation. For example, you may need to sleep an extra 2 hours over the course of 5 days to gradually pay back off your sleep debt.
And chronic sleep deprivation leads to lasting cognitive impairment. That's why our class motto is drowsiness is a red alert. It's a warning sign that your brain is struggling to function properly as a result of sleep deprivation.
Some people don't just have the occasional bad sleep night. They suffer from chronic sleep disorders. Here's a few of the most common sleep disorders.
Insomnia is a condition where people struggle to fall or stay asleep, even when they are tired. It starts out as a symptom and becomes a syndrome when it lasts more than 3 times a week over the course of 3 months.
Sleep apnea occurs when there are intermittent pauses or difficulty breathing while sleeping due to a blockage in the throat. This often results in snoring and disrupts sleep further by reducing oxygen levels and causing micro awakenings.
Narcolepsy can cause people to sleep excessively or fall asleep suddenly, even in the middle of activities. It can often be treated through short daylight naps and sometimes medication.
And lastly, restless leg syndrome makes it hard to relax due to an uncontrollable urge to move.
If you or someone you know struggles with sleep regularly, maybe worth seeing a doctor to discuss potential treatment options. Treatments for each of these conditions looks differently.
There are so many myths about sleep. Let's run through a couple of these misconceptions and why they are infactual. Misconception number one: I can function fine off 4 to 5 hours of sleep. This is one of the biggest myths out there. Some people think they're fine just doing 4 or 5 hours of sleep, but in reality, studies show that most adults need 7 to 9 hours to function at their best. Sleep deprivation affects your reaction time, memory, and even your mood, even if you don't feel it right away. And here's the kicker: when people say they are sleep deprived for long periods, they lose the ability to accurately judge how impaired they are. So even if you think you're functioning fine, your brain and body are actually struggling to keep up.
Misconception number two, hitting snooze gives you extra rest. We've all been there. Your alarm goes off, and instead of getting up, you hit snooze for just 5 more minutes. But is that extra sleep actually helping? Unfortunately, the answer is no. When you hit snooze, your body starts another sleep cycle, but it doesn't have enough time to complete it before the alarm goes off again. This fragments your sleep and can leave you feeling even more groggy than if you'd just woken up right away. This is called sleep inertia, that heavy, sluggish feeling after waking up, and snoozing actually makes it worse. Better strategy is to set your alarm for when you really need to wake up, and if possible, use a gradual wake up method like a sunrise alarm clock or a natural light to make mornings feel easier.
Misconception number three: it's best to sleep in complete darkness. Yes and no. While sleeping in a dark room is great for melatonin production at night, morning light exposure is actually one of the most important factors in keeping your circadian rhythm in sync. That's why it's a good idea to get natural light in as soon as possible after waking up. Whether that's stepping outside or leaving your curtains open a bit, morning light tells your body it's time to wake up, helping you feel more alert and making it easier to fall asleep at night.
Okay, so what can we actually do to improve our sleep? First, stick to a consistent schedule, even on weekends. This helps regulate your circadian rhythm.
Also, reducing screen time before bed makes a huge difference. And getting morning sunlight, whether it's stepping outside for a few minutes or just opening your curtains, can help wake you up and reinforce a healthy sleep cycle.
Create a relaxing bedtime routine. I've been seeing a lot of great recommendations on social media. These can be small changes, like dimming my lights an hour before bed or lighting a candle with a cup of hot, caffeine-free tea. Then, when it's time to sleep, make sure your bedroom is cool, dark, and quiet. It actually makes winding down and waking up so much easier.
Over the quarter, we tried to apply these sleep habits ourselves. We tracked our sleep, adjusted our routines, and noticed real changes in focus and energy. What have we learned? Here are a few of our key takeaways.
Since enrolling in Sleep and Dreams, I've been experimenting with small changes to see what actually works. One of the biggest changes I started doing is leaving my curtains open at night so that natural light wakes me up in the morning. At first, I was skeptical. Why would sunlight make a difference? I also used to wake up at the slightest sign of light, but after a few weeks, I noticed I was waking up more naturally and feeling more refreshed instead of groggy early in the morning. I also started tracking my sleep, which was honestly so eye-opening. I became much more cognizant of the amount of sleep I was spending in bed and the length of time it was taking me to fall asleep. It helped me tweak my routine, like cutting down caffeine in the afternoon, spending less time during the day in bed, and setting a bedtime alarm so I could actually get quality sleep instead of just time in bed.
For me, the biggest change was swapping out screen time for reading before bed. I used to scroll on my phone or watch Netflix late at night, and I didn't realize how much it was messing with my sleep due to increased light exposure. I also made a goal to read more this year, so I decided to switch to reading a book before bed instead. Since making the switch, I found that I was falling asleep way faster and waking up feeling more rested. Another thing that helped was setting a consistent wake up time, even on weekends, which I know can be hard. I used to wake I used to wake up super late on Saturdays thinking that I was catching up, but it just made it harder for me to wake up during the week, and I would end up laying in bed way longer than I intended. I decided to adjust my schedule to wake up at the same time every day and go to sleep a little bit earlier when possible. Plus, I started using a sunrise alarm clock that I got for Christmas, which gradually brightens my room before my alarm goes off. And it's way less jarring than having my phone blasting a loud ringtone first thing in the morning. It's really enhanced my morning mood and has helped me feel way more refreshed first thing.
All right, that brings up to the end of our presentation. We hope this has helped you understand just how important sleep is, not just for energy, but for memory, performance, and long-term health.
If there's one key takeaway from all of this, it's that small changes can make a big difference. Whether it's sticking to a consistent sleep schedule, getting morning sunlight, or avoiding screens before bed, improving your sleep doesn't have to be complicated.
Thanks so much for listening. If you have any questions or just want to swap sleep tips, we'd love to hear them.
Thanks.